folks, and welcome back to another Pinal Prep Spotlight brought to you by Jones Ford Buick GMC, your hometown dealer for more than 50 years. We are officially in the most hectic week, season, whatever's coming up. At this point, we're just super stressed because we have play-in games happening on Wednesday. We have 12 teams that will be in action, 6 for softball, 6 for baseball, from 2A to 6A. And jumping right into things, we got to kick off from the bottom up and our 2A. We're just going to talk about baseball here because our 2A softball team managed to secure a top 8 spot, so we don't have to worry about them in this play-in tournament. Santa Cruz Valley will be hosting on Saturday. Opponent still TBD, depending on how all this turns out. But talking about baseball, Santa Cruz, big surprise for us. The Dust Devils have made it. They are looking to secure their first playoff appearance in God knows how long. But looking at this game, Santa Cruz is going to be traveling up to number 12, Phoenix, Arizona Lutheran, and the Dust Devils' big thing here is their pitching. The staff so far, 2.16 ERA. Daniel Contreras and Aiden Casillo, a pair of freshmen. They have roughly the same amount of innings pitched, nearly hitting 40. Contreras, a 1.94 ERA, 52 strikeouts, just 23 walks, and then Casillo has been equally as impressive with a 2.65 ERA, 23 walks, and 41 strikeouts. The thing here, though, is Arizona Lutheran has a pretty decent hitting team. Leading the way is Jorge Lomelli, a .607 batting average, 45 RBIs, a 1.680 on-base percentage. And, the thing here is this Dust Devils team, aside from being young, really inexperienced, this is the first time for them in a long time. Maybe jitters might play a bit of a factor for them, or maybe not. Who knows? Hey, sometimes being young and being naive can work in your favor. So we'll have to wait and see how this one turns out. David, what do you got?
I'm going up to 3A baseball, and we got ALA Ironwood, who's ranked 14 in the play-in, going up against Kingman, who's ranked 19. And ALA kind of had an up-and-down year. They battled with some injuries this year, and they kind of weren't really the same team that we saw last year. But, hey, they still had a really great year. They finished their record 8-9, but they're still, in this play-on, and they have a very good chance of moving on. The Warriors are kind of like a hot and cold team at the same time. They can go on really good spurts, but then when they're cold, they are really cold. The offense can be really deep sometimes, and then sometimes they just go into really bad cold spells. So, last game they played, in the regular season, they played Northwest Christian. They lost 11-2. So, this team is definitely going to have to be on their game, especially on the pitching side. The batting side, they can do well. They have 2 guys that I'm really looking forward to seeing, and it's Cooper Martinez, batted .333 this year, and then Drew Rushing, batted .362 this year. And Rushing specifically is really patient at the plate. He walked about 18 to 20 times this year, so he definitely has an eye for the strike zone, is able to kind of find his rhythm and is comfortable inside the batter's box. It's definitely going to be big for them moving forward. The offense has got to be hot, and the pitching has to keep this other Kingman team down when it comes to hitting. So it's going to be a really good battle between some fairly evenly ranked teams. So we'll just have to see who gets the edge, and it's really going to come down to who makes the fewest mistakes in this game.
Staying with 3A baseball, we have another team, number 11, Florence. They will be hosting number 22, Lakeside Blue Ridge. And the thing about this Florence team is they're kind of heating up at the right time. They're coming off a big win just this week on Monday against Santan Foothills. Santan Foothills managed to escape the play-in tournament. They secured one of those top 8 spots. But Florence is going to look to carry, this momentum heading into this play-in game. They are led by Noah Medueno, while the team is batting .727. Juan Martinez has been stellar on the mound for the Gophers, 2.52 ERA and 33 and a third innings pitched. And then looking at Blue Ridge, they are going to have to the Florence pitching staff is going to have to slow down Cody Ashcroft, batting .537. He has a .648 on-base percentage and slugging 1.059. Opponents are against Landon Condit are just hitting .297, so we're going to have to see just what adjustments can this Florence team do offensively. It's kind of been an up and down season for them. Just a couple weeks ago, they were in the top 8. They lost a couple games that they really shouldn't have, but like I mentioned, they're coming off a big win. So like I said, this momentum just hopefully can carry on for them. And David, what else you got?
I'm staying in Florence. We got 3A softball now with the Gophers softball team playing Chino Valley. Florence is ranked 22. Chino Valley's ranked 11. And Florence had a really solid year. They finished 11-7, and this was their first winning season since 2019. So they really kind of came out of the woodwork and had a really solid year. And not necessarily we were expecting it, but hey, we're happy to be surprised with a great team like this. This team can hit. They batted a 367 as a team this year, but the big question is going to be pitching for this game. Pitching is always going to be key, especially in playoffs and play-in games. So they're going to have to really rely on Cami Rice, and she has to be on top of her game. She's been really the only pitcher for this team. She pitched 88 innings this year. She had an ERA just under 7, so she's really going to have to kind of be on her game for this one play-in game, and it's really going to have to come down to, if the ball bounces right for them. This team has definitely got a chance to go into enemy territory against Chino Valley and possibly get a win, but it's just going to have to be one of those situations where everything falls right for them. So they're really going to have to be on their game when it comes to the offensive side and on the pitching side, and they really need a full, well-rounded game in order to come out of this one with a win and advance into the 3A playoffs for softball.
Sticking with 3A softball, now I'm really bummed that this team doesn't get a home playing game. Coolidge just narrowly missed being in the top 16. They are number 17. They're going to be traveling up to number 16, Snowflake. And the big turnaround for this Coolidge team this season has to be pitching. When we talk about Coolidge, we got to talk about this girl, freshman Celicia Slushy Herrera. And she has just been so impressive. In 22 appearances in the circle, she already has over 100 innings tossed, 42 walks, 147 strikeouts. I mean, if defense was just a little more experienced, this girl would be virtually unhittable. But the downside for Coolidge, as I mentioned, is their defense. But that's just because they're really young. A lot of freshmen, sophomores, newcomers. But, the exciting thing about this, besides the pitching, is this team is so young. And because they have this turnaround season right now, they're just going to get experience, and they're going to get better as the years go on. Looking ahead in the future, I think this Coolidge team can be a real contender later on in the 3A conference. David, what else you got?
I have our final 3A softball team that's going to be in the play-in. It's ALA Ironwood going up against Safford. ALA Ironwood ranked 12th, Safford ranked 21. ALA Ironwood had a stellar year, and I think they kind of flew under the radar a lot for a lot of people, because this team finished 13-5. They are really solid when it comes to hitting. They have 9 batters with over 60 plate appearances. 8 of them are hitting 300 or better. This team is really solid when it comes to inside the batter's box. And again, with a lot of these teams, it's going to come down to pitching if they can really seal the deal here. I wouldn't expect them to run into too much trouble against a Safford team because this Warriors team is really solid and really stacked. So I think they're going to be able to kind of breeze through this one a little bit. But that's not saying that they have to come in and be lackadaisical. They really still have to kind of handle their business so they can get to their true goal, which is being in the playoffs. So this team is going to be really solid, and I'm looking forward to them trying to make a deep run in 3A because, this team is great. This team is a really good team, and I'm expecting big things out of them so they can move forward and possibly get a nice matchup into the playoffs in that first round, make a little bit of a decent run. You never know. Playoffs is a whole different beast, so a lot of teams can go on runs, and if they get hot at the right time, they're going to be well off for it. So this team is definitely going to be one that I'm going to look out for and hopefully get a win on Wednesday. Maria.
All right, and now jumping up to 4A, our only 4A softball team making it is Vista Grande. Vista Grande is in because they won the 4A Black Canyon region. In 4A, it still matters if you win your region. So Vista Grande will traveling all the way down to number 9, Sahuarita. And the thing about the Spartans team is this is their second year under head coach Victoria Belloc. Last year, the Spartans did manage to make it into the play-in tournament again by winning their region. And the thing here is there's not a whole lot of playoff experience from that 2021 team that was a state runner-up in the 4A state title game. Pretty much just 3 girls remained, but only one of them, and Ileana Cosillos, the catcher, really saw a lot of playing time. So this is all going to rest heavily on her to try to, rally these girls up and kind of prepare them, settle them down on the field because their pitcher is just a freshman, Kiki Gutierrez. So far, she has 61 innings of work, 43 walks, 63 strikeouts, and a 5.93 ERA. Now, this is really high compared to previous pitchers for the Vista Grande, which is what they have been known for most of the time. However, like I mentioned it with other teams, they're young. This is a good experience for them early on. They've taken their bumps during the season. It's been rough, but still, this is a good overall season for them and just kind of laying that foundation down and trying to build for the future. David, what are we looking at?
Shifting to 4A baseball now, I got the Broncos of Poston Butte going up against Thunderbird. Poston Butte ranked 14, and they had a really good year again, 14-4 record. And I think the question this year was, how are the Broncos going to respond after losing a lot of senior talent like they did last year? And they responded fairly well. I think this ranked 14 seeding in the play-in doesn't really tell the whole story of how good this team is. And the first thing you have to look at is Connor Lopez. He has had an absolute monster season for this team. He is batting .506 in 89 plate appearances. He has 15 extra base hits. He's been the team's ace on the mound. He has been everything this team has needed and more, and they have a really solid supporting cast around him. Connor Lopez has kind of brought in, been that star for this team, and he's going to be the star moving forward. I expect nothing less than him to be able to start this play-in game and kind of give them some really solid innings, probably go at least 4 or 5 innings for this team, and be the guy in that 3-4 hole in the lineup to be able to kind of bring some runs in and be able to put this team in a position to win. I really like Poston Butte this year. They've surprised me so much with a lot of this new talent that's come in. A little bit of younger talent this year. They've really done a great job of kind of getting that young talent acclimated while the seniors have still had their chance to eat and be seniors and be stars. So this team is definitely going to be looking forward to kind of trying to move past this playing round as quickly as possible and get to their ultimate goal with the playoff is, because we saw it last year. Poston Butte was a really solid team last year, one of the best in 4A. But then when it came down to playing some of these bigger and tougher teams, they kind of crumbled a little bit. So it's really going to have to come down to, can they get over that hump a little bit and be able to kind of get over their usual postseason struggles in this year. I think they can do it. It just comes down to everyone doing their job.
All right, staying for a baseball, much like their counterparts with the softball team, Vista Grande Baseball is in the play-in tournament. They are number 21. They are traveling to Tucson with number 12, Mika Mountain. And like the softball team, Vista Grande is in this because they won their region. And the thing here about Vista Grande is they went undefeated in the region. Their last regular season loss was on March 21st. But the downside to this is that loss was against a playoff caliber team. They haven't seen a team like this since they faced South Point Catholic in that game. And that's the downside here, is a weak region doesn't really prepare you for what you're going to see in the playoffs. The bright side is early on in the season, Vista Grande struggled hitting. A very young team. They had a juggernaut of a schedule early on, and they were taking their bumps, and confidence was a bit low. So this weak region, kind of helped them boost that confidence, help them get better at the plate and everything. But still, how do you balance out, seeing not that strong of a pitching while working up, your confidence and everything for a young team to what you're going to face now? Leading the way on the mound, Sebastian Hidrogo, Trent Chavez, and Adrian Montiel. These three guys have carried the load for Vista Grande. Montiel is just a freshman, which is a nice addition to what Hidrogo and Chavez can bring. So we're going to have to wait and see just who takes the mound in this game and what can the team do offensively to help them out and get this win. David, we got to keep going. What else you got?
We got a couple more left. Stick with us here. We got 5A softball with Casa Grande Union ranked 21 going up against Higley, who's ranked 12. And I'm glad when you brought up Vista Grande, you brought up the difference between a good, strong region team and a little bit of a weak region. Casa Grande is in a very strong region here. They've had a lot of teams that they've had to battle with, and they've done fairly okay. But a lot of their wins came in the beginning of the season, and they were riding hot for a while in that beginning of the year. But as soon as they got into region play, things kind of got a little bit away from them, and they're going up against another region opponent in Higley. Higley is right in that region with Casa Grande, and it's going to be interesting. The big question is, can they get over that hump of playing this region team? The two games that they played against Higley, it did not go well for Union. The offense just was not clicking. The pitching was decent, but they were still giving up too many runs. So it's really going to come down to, is this going to be the full circle game that Casa Grande Union needs to get over that hump? This is a really young team, so it's a good sign that they are in the play-in this early, especially with a first-year head coach. So this is definitely going to have to be a really solid Cougar team that's going to take this experience. Even if they don't come out victorious, they're going to take this experience and be better because of it. So it's just really going to come down to finding out, feeling out your different region opponents, especially in a playoff format or a play-in format. So this is going to be a good team for them to kind of go up and see where they stack up and see what mistakes they made and how to correct them next year. So I'm not counting them out completely. This team still can definitely hit the ball really well. It's just going to come down to them having a full circle game and playing almost flawlessly if they want to come out here with a win.
All right, now jumping over to baseball, staying in Casa Grande, staying in the 5A conference, and that is the CG Union boys. Number 19, they are at number 13, Lake Havasu, and the thing about the CG Union team is this playing game has been their Achilles heel for the past couple of seasons. They have been there since making the jump up to the 5A conference. However, they haven't been able to get over this bump and qualify for the actual state tournament. Leading the way for the Cougars right now is a senior trio in Sean Simmons, Austin Graffius, and Cole Carmichael. For the past couple of years, it seems like we've always been talking about Graffius and Carmichael. And, this year isn't any different. Carmichael is batting above 300. He has 20 hits. All three guys have 7 doubles. Carmichael, 11 extra base hits, and pitching. Pitching has kind of been CG Union's weakest link this season, but the bright spots have been Riley Amato and Max Villa. They kind of provided some spark at times. However, CG Union has kind of had a rocky second half of the season. They haven't been doing so well this past month, so we're just going to have to see just what this long bus ride can do for them, and if they can get into that right space mentally to get over that hump and qualify for the 5A state tournament in quite a long time for the Cougars. And David, I believe this is the last game we have to talk about. What do we have?
We're taking it home with some 6A softball with the Maricopa Rams going up against Shadow Ridge. And like the Casa Grande Cougars, they're playing a region opponent as well. Shadow Ridge is ranked 9 in the play-in, and Maricopa just barely squeaked into the play-in at number 24, that last spot for them. And this is honestly a really tough draw for the Rams. I think there is definitely ways that they could have corrected this or kind of maybe gotten in a better position, but they ran into a really tough region this year, and Shadow Ridge is no different. They played their last 2 games of the regular season against Shadow Ridge, and it did not go well for the Rams, losing 23-6 and then 12-2. This team is definitely kind of an up and down team. They've had some really solid players in the past that have kind of showed up for them, so it's really going to have to be, they need to rise to the occasion on this one. It's really tough to kind of find. It's really tough to see a team go up against a team that really beat them kind of handily in the regular season, but things can change. If they're able to get on a little bit of a hot streak in this game and kind of stick to their game plan and stick to what they do best, they're going to be better because of it. And maybe even since they know this team, they know them, they're in their own backyard, they might have a chance to kind of get a little bit of a leg up on the competition than, say, someone who doesn't know this Shadow Ridge team really well. So it's really going to be an interesting dynamic to see how this Maricopa team is able to kind of balance those emotions and balance that and play that game of playing against a region opponent. So it's going to come down to just them being able to play a really good game, and if they can get lucky, they can continue to move forward. We saw it last year. They got out of the play-in game and made it to the playoffs last year, so they could do it again this year. Just everything has to go right for them.
All right, and that does it for all of our breakdowns of our playing games. All of these games are happening on Wednesday. As of right now, they are still being played at 4 p.m. According to the AIA website, things tend to change. Sometimes we're notified, sometimes we're not, but we are going to try to bring you guys coverage on as many games as we can. The teams that do win tomorrow will likely play on Saturday, with the exception of our 3A conferences and our 2A baseball teams. So be sure to tune in and follow along as we take on this crazy journey that is postseason in Pinal County.